Hello friends, this is your friend back with a new fanfic. What if Naruto became the Berserker of Nightfall? Naruto times Hinata times Sakura times Ino times Tsunade times Anko times Temari Part 1. A cursed power, a world drowned in shadows, and a warrior who walks the edge of control. If you like this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and leave your thoughts in the comments. Now, let's start. Hello guys, this is your friend and we are back with a new fanfic. Which is what if Naruto became the Berserker of Nightfall? Naruto times Hinata times Sakura times Ino times Tsunade times Anko times Temari Harem Part 1. And if you enjoy this fanfic then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And now let's start the fanfic. Konoha, Nightfall. Uzumaki Naruto opened the forbidden scroll of sealing, his eyes widening at the sight of the list of jutsus and ancient knowledge before him. It was quite a sight for one so young. Over 100 years of shinobi knowledge was in this scroll and he was the only kid his age to look upon its contents. But not this time. Now Naruto would perform an advanced jutsu, get the respect he felt was deserving of him, and then maybe, just maybe, the people would finally change their minds of what they thought of him. Now let's see what we have here. Shadow Clone Jutsu. Seems pretty advanced. I better hold off on that for later in case I can't find another I can use, said Naruto out loud to himself before reading further along the scroll to see if there was another jutsu he could learn. And it was then he saw something that caught his eye. A complex storage seal meant to contain something that only someone with chakra levels around that of Kage could open. Meaning in order to open this seal, you had to either be a Hokage, a Sannin, or someone with the chakra levels matching them. It was designed that way to ensure only someone strong could access the item in the event a Anbu, Junin, or someone of lower rank had managed to steal the scroll before examining its contents. Like Naruto was doing now. In a hurry to see what it is, with his simple touch would unseal the item contained within. Naruto looked at the item and frowned at the sight of the strange dark bluish helmet with a ponytail of blue and a visor, before seeing the note beside it. Picking it up, Naruto would read its contents. Dear reader, if you are the Hokage, or someone with high chakra reserves, I beg of you to please reseal this helmet back in the Forbidden Scroll. There is an ominous power within this helmet that only leaves nothing but death and destruction in its wake. Also do not put the helmet on. There is no telling what it could do to you, it could either kill you or do something much worse. Signed the Nadame Hokage Tobarama Senju. Naruto looks from the note to the helmet. What's so great about this helmet? Naruto asked, holding it, staring at its features. He wondered, could the helmet really kill him? Since there was a time he longed for death due to the constant treatment he's received from the villagers of Konoha. What Naruto didn't know was that he felt a strange sensation coming from the helmet. He wondered how would he look with it on. So he became daring and decided to put it on his head. Once he put it on, for a moment nothing happened. What a useless piece of junk. How would this help me pass the exam? Naruto says. As he reached to take the helmet off. The helmet would not come off. Huh, what the hell? Why can't I take it off? Naruto says, trying to pull the helmet off his head with all his might. It's like the helmet has a mind of its own and won't come off. Then suddenly everything went black for Naruto. Black fog was beginning to emit from Naruto. His body jerked and turned as he frantically tried taking the helmet off of him. His screams were muffled. More and more black fog poured out of his body as it began to spread in the forest. Suddenly a pillar of black fog erupted in the forest which caught the attention of Iruka and Mizuki. Killer intent began to flood the area. A low hum escaped from the helmet's visor and suddenly glowed a crimson light. Until then the helmet itself screamed. Rua HHHHHH. The helmet screamed. Suddenly black-clad armor plates would begin to appear on Naruto's body. As he was fully covered head to toe in full black blushish armor, tendrils erupted from Naruto's back with spikes. He grabs the scroll as it would suddenly turn black with red markings, infecting it with his noble phantasm. At that moment, Iruka and Mizuki ran to the scene. Both widened their eyes at the sight before them. Seeing an armored being hold the forbidden scroll that was now covered in pure black with red marks all over it. The armored being silently gazes at Mizuki and Iruka. You damn demon. What are you doing with the scroll? You was supposed to hand it to me. Mizuki yelled at the armored being and reached to grab the giant ninja star on his back. Demon. Is that Naruto in that armor? Iruka thought. Before Mizuki could toss his weapon, Berserker Naruto grabs Mizuki by the throat and aggressively slams him hard on the ground and then aggressively starts punching him repeatedly in the face. After beating the absolute shit out of Mizuki, whose face had been damaged beyond repair, Iruka was terrified as he tried to come up to Naruto. Naruto, he says until a mean backhand from the armored Uzumaki sent Iruka through 20 trees. Berserker Naruto screams into the night, getting the attention of many who flinched at the scream. Iruka groaned, passing out from the impact. Raahhhhhh. Berserker Naruto screams as Hiruzen and the Anbu surrounds Naruto, who is under the influence of the Helm of Berserker. Subdue him, Hiruzen commanded. All 12 Anbu tossed their kunai and shurikens at the armored being, that's Naruto, but time slowed down as Naruto grabbed a kunai and used his noble phantasm to making the weapon pure black with red cracks and lunged forward at the Anbu who engaged him. The Anbu barely had time to evade or dodge because Berserker Naruto was fast and lunged at them, swiping and slashing his kunai in many vicious ways towards the Anbu, killing them without difficulty. Hiruzen widened his eyes in shock, immediately torn off his Hokage robes and was already in his battle armor. Naruto, he called out as the armored boy turned to him with the visor of the helm glowing a menacing red. It's me, please, remember me. Hiruzen called out to the boy. The armored boy was shaking in rage at the sight of the Hokage who lied to him about the fox inside him, as his rage was fueled. Black fog continued to emit from Naruto, who is heavily under the influence of Berserker. Naruto's armor brought out pointed tendrils and unleashed them at Hiruzen, who narrowly avoided them. Hiruzen wasted no time in summoning his monkey summon to turn into his battle staff. Naruto, please. I know you are angry, but calm down and we can talk this over. He pleaded with the boy. The armored being charged at Hiruzen while screaming a battle cry as he attempted to stab Hiruzen with his noble phantasm-induced kunai. Hiruzen moved backwards and dodged Naruto's mean strikes that struck the ground, trees and rocks, destroying them in an instant. Hiruzen would twirl his staff and bring down a heavy swing upon Naruto, bashing him with the staff, which enraged Berserker Naruto further. Hiruzen managed to knock the kunai out of Berserker Naruto's hand and would make a move to hit Berserker Naruto again with his staff, but surprisingly, Naruto caught the weapon, which shocked Hiruzen as the armored boy kicked Hiruzen hard in the chest and took the Monkey King's staff, using his noble phantasm to turn the staff into his weapon. No! Hiruzen yelled, realizing his weapon had become Naruto's weapon. Berserker Naruto spun his noble phantasm-induced staff and lunged at Hiruzen in full speed. Enma. He called out to the staff, but there was no response. It's like Enma has been reduced as an actual object. Naruto took the first swing as Hiruzen used a substitution jutsu to replace himself with a log. Raaahhhhhhhhhh. Naruto's war cry filled the skies of Konoha, which made every have a sense of dread. Hiruzen tossed multiple kunais and shurikens at Naruto, who moved so fast that Hiruzen barely had time to react, and that Naruto elbowed Hiruzen hard in the face, knocking some teeth out the old Hokage. Hiruzen stumbled back, dazed, and struck hard, his mouth bleeding, and then suddenly he felt his head being struck by Naruto's staff, forcing Hiruzen on the ground as Naruto repeatedly bashed and struck Hiruzen with the staff as Hiruzen's cries filled the sky. Naruto! He screamed out as Naruto didn't even hear him, and Naruto positioned the staff right above Hiruzen's back and then slammed the end of the staff down on Hiruzen's spine, breaking it. Hiruzen's scream of agony filled the sky as multiple Anbu, Jonins and Chunins would soon arrive, including the clan heads. Hokage-sama! Yelled Kakashi as he immediately wasted no time in charging up his Chidori to attack the armored being. Stop the armored assassin! He's attacking my father! Yelled Asuma as everyone immediately charged at Naruto. Kakashi charged at Berserker Naruto with his Chidori and attempted to lance through the armored boy, but the boy shifted and evaded and grabbed Kakashi's wrist and snapped it, causing the Jonin to scream out in pain, as Kakashi was then thrown all the way out of Konoha walls. Restrain him. It's Naruto. Hiruzen called out from his downed position. All right, I'll hold him. Shikaku says, using his shadow-possessing technique to hold Naruto and restrain him. Naruto growled, trying to break free from the shadows. As he seemed to try, Shikaku was sweating, as he's trying to hold Naruto. Inoichi, try using your jutsu. I can't hold him. He's too strong. Shikaku yelled, straining to hold Naruto in place. Inoichi would attempt to use his mind transfer jutsu to invade Naruto's mind, but suddenly he can't seem to get in. What? My jutsu won't work on him. Inoichi yelled, surprising the others. I'll punt him to the ground. Choza says, growing giant, and attempt to smash his giant fist on Naruto. Berserker Naruto was almost free from the shadows. I can't hold him any longer, Shikaku says, feeling fatigued. Inochi tried his jutsu again, only for his projection to get sent back into his own body. It's like something was keeping him from invading into Naruto's mind. Choza brought his giant fist upon Naruto and slammed it, leaving a crater. Dust exploded as it would clear. But suddenly, Choza felt his hand being stabbed multiple times, causing him to stumble in shock and pain. The spiked tendrils from Naruto's armor had pierced his hand. And in an instant, Berserker Naruto bolted up and smashed his staff across Choza's face, knocking him down. Then the armored Uzumaki charged like a raging demon towards Inochi and Shikaku. Before he could attempt to attack the two, Hiashi and Tsume both intervened. Hiashi Byukugen flashed to life, would immediately get into his gentle fist stance and attempt to shut down Naruto's chakra points, while Tsume would swipe her claws at the armor Naruto is wearing. Naruto would be struck by Hiyashi's strikes, but the Hyuga flinched, feeling both his hands cringe in pain when he attempted to hit Naruto. He wasn't sure if he did it or not, but that armor is strong. Tsume noticed it too, as she saw her claws looked like they've been chipped. Naruto delivers a mean backhand to Hiyashi's face, knocking the Hyuga man, while grabbing Tsume by the neck and slammed her hard on the ground, knocking her out. Shinbi unleashed his swarm of bugs on Naruto to eat away at his chakra, but the moment his bugs got close to Naruto, the fog suffocated the bugs, killing them as they got close. This made Naruto focus back on both Shikaku and Inochi as he charged at them with his staff and spun it violently on both of their heads and then smacked them with the staff into a couple of trees. Raahhhhhhh. Naruto growled, still under the helmet's influence. Everyone form a perimeter around him. Box him in, Asuma commanded. Kurenai was terrified. She wasn't sure if she could use her genjutsu on him, as she trembled lightly, backing away. Might Guy would lunge at Berserker Naruto to assault him with multiple blows, but he cringed in pain because the armor Naruto is wearing is hard and impervious. But Guy dispute his pain, would not give up and try to stop Naruto, but the armored boy grabbed both of Guy's arms and was about to break them both, causing Guy to let out a pained scream. Guy, no! Asuma yelled, now pulling out both his trench knives and charged at Naruto. Asuma, remember that's Naruto. Hiruzen reminded him. I don't care. Asuma yelled back and went to strike at Naruto, who saw this and kicked Guy away and focused on Asuma, blocking the trench knives with his staff. Both of them glared at each other fiercely as their weapons were causing sparks to fly. Naruto pushed forward with his might and struck Asuma in the face with the staff, and then swinging his staff at both Asuma's legs, breaking them, causing the man to scream in agony. Naruto! Yelled a voice, as the armored being turned around to face Yugao. Please, don't do this, I don't want to fight you. She pleaded with the boy she once watched over. Naruto silently gazes at her, suddenly not feeling the hostility to attack Yugao. Why don't you put your weapon down? See? I'll put mine down if you put yours down, Yugao says, putting her sword down. The armored being tilted his head to the left, facing her. As black fog emitted, it would slowly fade. Just put your weapon down, and let's calm down, Yugao tries to say, being the voice of reason. Don't nobody attack, let Yugao try to get through to him. Hiruzen called out to everyone. But Hokage-sama, can't you see he's dangerous? Yelled a Chunin. He's taken out nearly all of the clan heads, and you, even our most experienced Jonin. Called out another. Just trust in Yugao. Yelled Hayate, who was on the sidelines. The armored being faced Yugao, who held a pleading look, as somewhere within that armor, didn't have it in him to attack Yugao, considering she's been his guard and often cares about him. Naruto's grip on his staff was about to be loose. Suddenly tree roots would envelop around Naruto's armored form. This shocked the others, who all turned to see Tenzo Yamato use the wood style to hold Naruto. The moment Naruto saw this, he was immediately enraged as black fog emitted vividly. Raahhhhhhh. Berserker Naruto let out a bloody war cry and would begin to tear away from the wooden roots that held him. Naruto, no! Yugao yelled, but Hayate immediately ran to her and tackled her out of harm's way. The armored being grabbed Asuma's trench knives and coated them in his noble phantasm and charged directly at Tenzo. "Hey, those are mine," Asuma yelled. Tenzo, who saw this, immediately sent more and more wooden tendrils at Naruto, who sliced and diced them with his trench knives. Tenzo kept trying, but it was no use as Naruto cut down each wooden tendril, but the moment he got close to Tenzo was about to use a substitution jutsu, but Naruto swiftly turned and slashed both of his trench knives across Tenzo's neck, beheading him. As his head was sent flying, Tenzo's lifeless body fell limp. Even Hiruzen was horrified and shocked that Naruto took it that far. "You damn monster!" Asuma screamed at Naruto. This caused all the Anbu, Jonins and Chunins present into a fit of rage as they all lunged at Naruto, who is a murderer. "Attack that monster!" Asuma yelled, pointed at Naruto. As the Anbu all tossed their kunai, shurikens, paper bombs, and bombs at the armored Uzumaki who was tanking them. Jonins and Chunin all lined up to hit Naruto with fire jutsu and water jutsu. Being bombarded by so many attacks was starting to piss off Berserker Naruto even more. The angrier he got, the stronger he was. He charged at them while they continued hitting him with everything they got, but it wasn't enough to make him flinch, falter, or hurt him. Naruto let out a bellowed war cry and charged into the groups of Konoha shinobi, beginning his massacre upon them. He hacked and slashed at many with his trench knives, bashed, punted, and smashed with his staff, impaled many with his spiked tendrils. His armor was stained in blood from killing other shinobi. Naruto would begin to sprint, battering into anyone in his way, and would run into the village. The moment he saw the villagers, he froze, as they stared at him with worry. His rage was growing. His wrath was growing when he looked at the villagers, the same villagers who tormented him since birth. Glowing in pure raw rage, mixed with the Kyuubi's chakra, Berserker Naruto screamed into the night sky. Lawa ga aghhhh. Naruto screamed so loud that it echoed for all to hear, from across the elemental nations. As soon as Naruto made that scream, something would fly right out of the oceans. At high speed. Flying at full speed was an armored flying object armed with weapons. As it emitted the same black fog as is Berserker Naruto. The sound of roaring engines filled the sky. As Berserker Naruto jumped high and landed on his F-15 fighter jet. Coated in his noble phantasm, he controlled the jet to spin and do turns in the skies. As many looked in awe and horror at what flying object the armored Uzumaki was on. Now on his personal jet, Berserker Naruto pulls out a Vulcan minigun cannon with a huge drum. As the jet spun in the air and launched missiles at the groups of Konoha villagers and buildings, blowing them up. As he fired more missiles, then aimed his weapon and screamed, "Konoha!" Berserker Naruto screamed. Many shinobi were being shot all over the place from the minigun, along with the villagers who screamed in terror. As they screamed and begged for mercy. But all they got was death from above. Berserker Naruto didn't stop. He kept shooting at everyone. Many shinobi tried to create earth walls to tank the hits, but the walls were easily crumbled, or they didn't finish the jutsu in time and died when the bullets pierced through the walls. More and more missiles were unleashed as they blew up multiple buildings. Raahhhhh. Berserker Naruto aimed at the Hokage Tower, firing 2 missiles, and fired his minigun at anyone in the building. During all this massacre and chaos, the rookies were terrified, as they all stared up at the skies, seeing a armored being flying on a flying object. A certain Hyuga turned on her Byukugan to see who that is under the armor. But her eyes wince, since the armor is protecting Naruto's identity. "My Kami, he's gone berserk," says a terrified Kiba. None of them don't know that it's Naruto under that armor. Naruto continues to fly around Konoha, hitting everyone with missiles and bullets. He makes a turn and aims for the orphanage that kicked him out years ago. He fired 2 missiles straight at the orphanage, blowing it up. Then turned his final gaze on the apartment he once lived in, firing 3 missiles at the building to ensure it blown up and burned. Half of Konoha was smoking, buildings were on fire, many dead villagers and shinobi. Berserker Naruto gazed at the burning village and many dead civilians and shinobi he killed in his wake just when he was about to open fire. He saw a familiar pair of people looking at him in horror. He saw Kyuki and Ayame. This made Naruto flinch lightly. Receiving flashbacks of the two who were kind to him, He lowered his weapon and made a turn to leave Konoha as he left a echoing scream of anguish. Father, who was that? Why did he stare at us like that? Ayame asked her father, who was silent. I have no idea, I don't know why he acted that way, Tuki admitted. Hours later, those who survived the rampage could look at half-destroyed village of Konoha. You're telling me that Naruto did all of this? Says Kakashi, who was wearing an arm cast and looked bruised. Jiraiya returned immediately as soon as he got word of what happened. Jiraiya could only look horrified at the half-destroyed village, and the many dead shinobi and civilians. Sensei, what the hell happened? Jiraiya asked his bedridden sensei. I don't know, but whatever happened, it set Naruto off, Hiruzen answered. True enough, Naruto caused tons of damage, upon half the village. Lots of property damage was destroyed. The Hokage monument was destroyed. Shot up and blown up, all the faces are destroyed including Minato's. The Hokage tower was heavily damaged. Clan heads are in hospital to get treated on by their injuries. Next came the death count. 614 shinobi were killed. 899 civilians died in the rampage. And majority of these people were the ones who tortured Naruto and wronged him. Jiraiya, you have to get Tsunade. Hiruzen told his student. I'll do what I can to find Tsunade, sensei, Jiraiya told his bedridden sensei. Danzo's house. I knew that boy was dangerous. Kaharu yelled. This proves that he is a monster. Homura yelled. Now that he's loose, where is he now? Danzo says, already forming plans to take advantage of this situation. He could be anywhere. Some say they saw him fly on some mysterious object in the sky. Homura replied. Well, I say, we issue putting him in the bingo book and place a high bounty on the boy. Danzo suggested. We can't give out his identity, what should we call him? Homura asked. Let's call him, the armored psychopath. Danzo says. Good idea. And the bounty? How much? Kaharu asked as Danzo stroked his chin. 750 million ryo. Danzo answered. How can we be sure of other missing shinobi or rogue shinobi will want to go after the armored psychopath? Homura asked. They will, if we are giving them a big reward of money if they do it. Danzo answered. The bingo book will already show his crimes and all what he's done. Danzo added. He definitely wants the armored Naruto Uzumaki as his weapon. To be by his side. And to overthrow Hiruzen and potentially use the armored Uzumaki to be an attack dog upon other villages who opposes Konoha. He has complete faith in all the rogue shinobi and bounty hunters out there who are greedy for money will go after the armored psychopath. He should be S-ranked. Homura says. Agreed. Danzo says. And like that, the bounty of the armored psychopath was spread like wildfire. Bounties of the armored psychopath was spread out. As shinobi, rogue shinobi, and bounty hunters all over the elemental nations saw the hefty reward of capturing the armored psychopath and immediately went in search for him. Elsewhere, Berserker Naruto was flying aimlessly into the sky on his F-15 fighter jet, soaring so high in the sky leaving a trail of black fog. As he stared ahead into the skies flying off elsewhere in a distance. Berserker Naruto is just sitting on a rock sleep, holding his staff that he had taken from Hiruzen. He was motionless and quiet, he wasn't smoking in black fog, his jet is hidden. He decided to sit here to rest. Naruto's mindscape. Naruto would awaken in his subconscious, his mindscape. Everything around him looked dark, red and black. I am the shunned, the scorned, the despised, says a dark malevolent voice within Naruto's mindscape as he was standing 12 feet away from a tall armored being. Who are you? Naruto asked in shock, suddenly realizing that's the helmet he wore. It's alive. My name is unworthy of praise, my body unworthy of envy, I am the shadow cast by the heroic spirit's light. The darkness born in the shadow of shining legend, says Berserker as he grabbed Naruto by the neck, who was choking and gagging by the chokehold. Thus, do I hate, thus, do I resent. I feed on the lamentation of those who sink into darkness and curse those who shine so brightly. Berserker's voice echoed. Her shadow is my shame. Her honor remains forever unsung, thus I am forever looked down upon. Berserker says, holding him in place as his helmet cracks and falls apart, revealing a skull with dark aura. You are the new vessel. Berserker finally says as his entire form consumes Naruto. Merging with the boy, the Kyuubi within her cage that is now colored in black and red steel bars, she glanced down at the armored knight who merged with her vessel, narrowing her eyes. I didn't think you'd return. Berserker Lancelot, she says with edge in her voice. Berserker Lancelot now merged with Naruto's body, shifted to glance at the Kyuubi in her cage. He suddenly recognized her voice. She is the caster-class servant Tamamo no Mae. Show yourself to me, Tamamo, he says as she frowned behind her cage as a golden light would envelop around her as she shrunk in human size once the light died down, revealing a fair-skinned woman with pink hair, orange fox ears and tail. Wearing a blue-colored kimono, with golden-colored eyes. What do you intend to do, Berserker? She asked him, folding her arms under her large perky. Help my new vessel, start a new life, free him from the chains of oppression by those in the Leaf Village and take down all who stands in my way, then find my rival. And settle the score. Berserker Lancelot revealed. Are you referring to, she says with wide eyes, almost nervous to say the name, but Berserker screamed it out for her. Arrrrrthurrrr. He screamed in rage. Tamamo and Naruto had to plug their ears in. You realize Artoria hasn't been seen or heard of for many years, Tamamo says, since at that time, she heard stories of the King of Lions and she is the one responsible for taking down Lancelot Berserker. And she was already sealed into Naruto Uzumaki at the time. Yes, I remember it all. Too well. I died, when she and the second Hokage both killed me, he says, clenching his fists. Recalling a flashback when Berserker was a mass murderer who served no master and instead became rogue. Although he died but his spirit did not. After he was defeated, the helmet had been sealed away by Tobirama Senju in the Forbidden Scroll. Berserker-san, how do I learn control of your powers? Naruto asked the knight. To control your powers, you must embrace darkness, hatred, anger, and fury. Think of all those in the Leaf Village who wronged you. Lancelot Berserker answered. Curse those who shine so brightly. Resent. Hate makes you strong. Berserker says. Naruto stands there as Berserker circled around him, instructing Naruto to embrace his hatred, his frustration, his resentment towards those on Konoha who treated him harshly since the day he was born. Your third Hokage whom you see is a surrogate grandfather, he doesn't care about you. He only cares about the village, putting the village before your needs. He has lied to you, multiple times, on why you are hated. Along with lying about your parents, Lancelot says. Think of all the times he has lied to you, manipulated you, barely has any time for you, or protect you from your assailants. He added. My parents. Naruto spoke up. Yes, your parents. Tamamo says, making Naruto turn his head to her as if she knew them personally. I think you deserve to know the truth. I was sealed into you, by the fourth Hokage, your father. Minato Namikaze. Tamamo would answer, making Naruto have a look of disbelief. His own father, is the reason he's hated. Is this why his life is hell? Where does my mother stand in all of this? Naruto asked. Your mother strongly opposed the idea of you becoming the next Jinchuriki of me, and suggested on sealing me back inside her, yes. Your mother, Kushina Uzumaki, was my previous vessel, Tamamo revealed. Your father had summoned the Shinigami to split both halves of me. My yin half in himself, and what you see standing before you is the yang half. Sealed into you. He could have sealed the yin half in your mother to save her from death, but of course he didn't. Tamamo spoke with Naruto slowly taking this in. What happened to my parents? He asked calmly. Dead. I killed them, she answered, making Naruto gasp. I was trying to kill you when you were a baby, when I saw through their plan to seal me into you. I wanted to be free. They both sacrificed their lives for you, she says with little emotion in her voice. Naruto stared at her, seething in pure raw anger. She denied him a mother and fath. No, he deeply resented his father now. Seeing that Naruto was going to blow in any minute, Tamamo immediately got on her knees with tears appearing. Please, I am sorry for taking away your mother and father. I wanted freedom so bad. I grew tired of being used as nothing more than a tool. A weapon. I hated being a tool for the humans. Please, I'll do anything to make up for killing your mother and, she says, but Naruto cuts her off. I have no father. Naruto spoke with anger. Tamamo only wanted freedom. Naruto, I know of her enslavement due to Madara Uchiha, who abused her powers for his own gains to do battle with Hashirama Senju. Berserker says with Tamamo nodding to that. It's true. All my life me, and likely my siblings, are nothing but tools of war for these humans. We deserve some peace for ourselves. But the humans just couldn't leave well enough alone. Tamamo says. Naruto stands there glaring at her as black smoke surrounds him. Although Naruto felt a little sorry for Tamamo, but he can't find it in himself to forgive her for denying him a mother. It was all Harashirama's fault. The first Hokage. Because of him I feel resentful towards him and humans. Except for two. Mito Uzumaki and your mother, she admitted. How exactly were you free in the first place? Naruto asked. The masked Uchiha, he was the one who came on the night of your birth and kidnapped your mother to free me, Tamamo revealed. What's worse is after he freed me, he used his eyes, she says, now conjuring up a memory projection of the night as the three watched. Berserker Lancelot watched the scene unfold, his focus was directly on the masked Uchiha. Who claims to be Uchiha Madara. But this is not Madara. Madara Uchiha doesn't wear masks, and normally he wears red armor, this is an imposter. Because if the fourth Hokage was fighting the real Madara Uchiha, he'd be dead. Berserker says. An imposter. How can you be certain? Tamamo asked Berserker. Think about it. I've fought Madara Uchiha before. The man never displayed abilities like this to me before. I've fought both him and Hashirama before. This man in the mask is an imposter, a pretender. Berserker growled. Naruto stared up at the projection image of the masked man holding him at kunai point. Glaring at him in hatred. How does he know the secret location? That's the biggest question. Naruto asked. There's two ways this likely could have happened. 1. Someone sold them out. 2. Someone probably blabbered such secret out of the blue instead of keeping it to themselves. Lancelot says, folding his arms. So who's the idiot that opened their big mouth? Naruto yelled enraged that more black fog was surrounding him. Konoha. Kakashi sneezed. Back in the mindscape. I suspect it has to be one of Minato's remaining students, Kakashi Hatake, since Kushina never gave away her location to anyone. Tamamo says. If I remember from Minato, he always talked at graves, especially at two graves, his fallen teammates, and one surprisingly an Uchiha, she added. So it was that asshole's fault. Naruto growled, now feeling his hatred growing for Kakashi. Calm down, brat, it's just an assumption, but maybe true, Berserker told him. We won't know, but it could be a possibility, Tamamo says. So what can we do now? Naruto asked. I will be training you. But first, I think there's a problem you need to solve. Lancelot says, pointing to Tamamo. What about her? I don't want nothing to do with her. Naruto spat while Tamamo looked a little saddened. She literally offered she would do everything and anything to make up for what you've been through. You should take advantage of this. Lancelot says, making Naruto frown at him. How? The boy replies. Make her your servant. Lancelot answered. Servant. Naruto repeated with Tamamo looking at Berserker with an incredulous expression. Yes. It's the only way for her to make up. You will be her master, and she is your servant. Berserker says. Naruto returned his gaze back at Tamamo, who had pleading eyes, and got back on her knees folding her hands up. Please. Please let me be your servant. I'll do what you ask. I really want to make up for denying you happiness with your family. It's the least I can do. She says, begging Naruto. Naruto then turned his gaze back at the armored Lancelot, who nodded to him firmly. Fine, you'll be my servant. Naruto says with reluctance. Thank you, it's the least I can do. Naruto-sama, she says. The moment those words were uttered, a golden light emerged in the mindscape, a golden light connecting to Naruto and Tamamo. The moment those words were uttered, a golden light emerged in the mindscape, a golden light connecting to Naruto and Tamamo. Naruto feels the back of his right hand burn brightly. He inspects his hand, seeing a red command seal on the back of his hand. The master and servant bond was completed. Now then, until then I will be training you, and so will she. Berserker says, turning to the two. And so began union of Lancelot, Berserker, Naruto and Tamamo. Outside the mindscape, while Naruto slept. Hey, is that him? Says a bounty hunter. The bounty hunter looks at the bounty info in the bingo book. Seeing the armored psychopath. Is it him? Says another rogue shinobi. Look at the bounty on him. 750 million ryo. Says another rogue. I'm getting paid today. Says the bounty hunter, getting his sword out. That money is mine, yelled the rogue shinobi, pulling out 2 kunais. How can one person be worth so much money? Exclaimed another hunter. Berserker Naruto's visor on his helm gleamed red, and he was emitting black fog. As he turned to see 4 bounty hunters surround him. "Come with us quietly, armored psychopath," says the lead bounty hunter. The armored Uzumaki calmly reaches to his back and pulled out another unknown weapon and started shooting at the 4 fatally. What he held in his hand was a MP5 submachine gun. As he started firing his gun at the bounty hunters who came to him. Konoha 5 days later. Yugao would be at the Konoha gravesite paying respects to her sensei Kushina. "I am sorry that I let you down. Kushina-sensei. I failed to protect your son, this village failed see that Naruto was no monster." Yugao says towards the grave. "I don't know what drove Naruto into such chaos and destruction that day," according from Iruka, who was the witness of seeing Naruto put on that strange helmet that turned him into a sadistic armored being. Yugao says, "I somewhat believed Mizuki played a part in Naruto's rampage, and he has attacked the Hokage. Along with attacking many of the clan heads and every other Konoha shinobi, I tried to resolve the situation peacefully, but some person with a wood bloodline ruined it all." Yugao says, which resulted the death of many civilians. "And wherever Naruto is, I hope he can find peace," Yugao says. It's been 5 days since the massacre and rampage in Konoha. That she resigned from the Anbu. A huge part of her blames the Hokage. She holds him accountable, and has lost her respect that she resigned. People of Konoha are still mourning for their friends, and loved ones, who were killed by Naruto in the massacre. She's heard that Jiraiya has gone out to retrieve Tsunade to bring her here to heal everyone in perfect condition including Hiruzen. Yugao could only scoff. She doesn't think Hiruzen deserves any treatment. It's his fault that he let the villagers torment Naruto. They only have themselves to blame for all of this. With Hiruzen would sit in his wheelchair holding his smoke pipe now in his home. Looking out his window looking at destruction Naruto did in the village. Hiruzen sighed sadly, at the thought of Naruto, he feels responsible for this. With him now disabled, he lost his position to remain Hokage and now they are debating on choosing Danzo. He openly hated the idea of Danzo becoming Hokage, fearing Danzo will cause even more problems in the future, so he hopes Jiraiya finds Tsunade and convince her to return to the village. She must become the Hokage. He wasn't able to protect Naruto from Danzo's bounty. He had a heated argument with Danzo and his teammates for what they have done. Because he did not want a bounty on Naruto. He couldn't shake the thought of the armored Naruto attacking him. He thought he could talk Naruto out from attacking him that night, but not even he could get through to Naruto. The only someone who was able to get through to Naruto was Yugao. Hiruzen sighed remembering the argument he and Yugao had, along with her resignation. Flashback. Hiruzen would lay in the hospital bed as he faced Yugao who angrily glared at him. "Yugao. Please reconsider on resigning," Hiruzen pleaded. "You couldn't even protect Naruto. You couldn't even do Kushina-sensei's wishes." Yugao said with narrowed eyes. "You cared more about the village than her son, who is struggling," Yugao said while Hiruzen looked away. "Yugao, you have to understand, what I did was for the benefits of the village," Hiruzen replied. "I didn't have much of a choice," he told her while she glared harder. "So Kushina's last wishes mean nothing to you?" she hissed. "That's not what I'm saying," he countered. "Then why did you not do better in protecting Naruto? Why didn't you give the villagers harsher punishments for their crimes against Naruto? Why didn't you give Naruto his family's home to stay in, instead of giving him a run-down apartment? Why didn't you give him more money?" Yugao demanded. Hiruzen remained silent looking away in guilt, knowing that he failed not just Naruto but Kushina and Minato. Knowing if their son was treated this bad both parents would have saw red and have no problems in executing the villagers for their crimes upon Naruto. "This is exactly why I am resigning. And you've lost my respect," Yugao says. Now Danzo and those elders put a massive bounty on Naruto, and for what? Yugao yelled. "Yugao, he killed innocent villagers, he took it too far," Hiruzen told her, although he was against the bounty, but what Naruto did was extreme. "There are no innocents. Not anymore. They got exactly what was coming to them." Yugao exploded in anger. "Even the women. Children at Naruto's age." Hiruzen yelled back. Yugao didn't say anything. When children were brought up, since she saw all the destruction Naruto did in his wake. "Their blood is on your hands," she countered. "On my hands," Hiruzen repeated. You could have ordered Tenzo to not interfere. He arrived too soon. If you had stopped him and let me get through to Naruto. What happened that night wouldn't have escalated further. Yugao says in anger. Don't put their deaths on me. Hiruzen yelled back. Hiruzen, although he trusted Yugao right then and there at that moment, he was scared that he didn't want to take any chances of Naruto doing anything rash. He had hoped that with Tenzo, he could suppress Naruto due to him being a Jinchuriki of the Nine Tails. Hiruzen Sarutobi. You disgust me. It should have been you that gave your life to seal the Nine Tails away instead of Minato. Maybe then both of his parents would have been alive today to prevent something like this from happening. You are nothing but a hypocrite. You are a failure. You don't deserve to be Hokage. I have nothing to say to you. This is goodbye. Yugao says, having enough of this old man, and she's directly cutting her ties with him. Flashback end. Hiruzen signed as he smoked his pipe, feeling much older and weaker than he already is. Are the deaths of those truly on his hands? Iwa. Onoki stared at the bingo book that was recently updated and saw the massive bounty on the armored psychopath as he looked up at Akatsuchi. What is this? He asked his right-hand man. A new bounty that came from Konoha. It's been spread around the elemental nations. All hunter nins, bounty hunters and other shinobi are very interested in the bounty and are going after him. He is called the armored psychopath. Akatsuchi informed him. And pray tell me, why should I be interested? What exactly is his crime to get such a high bounty? Onoki asked, clearly not interested in the bounty. I heard rumors that he's destroyed half of Konoha. At least that's the rumor I've heard. His man said. This suddenly began to interest Onoki. While he hated Konoha with a passion, this armored psychopath intrigued him. Tell me, Akatsuchi, does the armored psychopath have any love for Konoha? Onoki asked as the man shook his head. I don't think so. There must be a reason he destroyed half of Konoha. He replied. Didn't Konoha have their own Jinchuriki? Onoki asked. The Kyuubi Jinchuriki is reported missing, sir. Akatsuchi informed him. So Konoha is without a weapon? Onoki asked. Yes, sir. He replied. Onoki thought this would be a perfect opportunity to wage war on Konoha for the last shinobi war since Minato Namikaze the Yellow Flash massacred all Iwa shinobi back then. But he will hold off on the idea of war. At least until he handles the Akatsuki. Akatsuchi. I want you to keep your eyes on the armored psychopath. If he comes to our border, do not have anyone on our side to engage him. Onoki commanded. What are you planning, sir? He asked. It would be better to have the armored killer on our side. Onoki says. Sir, are you sure this is a good idea? Akatsuchi says, very concerned. Inform all of our shinobi here in and outside the village to not engage with the armored psychopath. I want to recruit him to our side if he's that dangerous. Onoki said. Very well, sir. I'll see to it. Akatsuchi says, hesitantly, feeling a bad feeling about this. Hopefully he can convince the armored killer to join them, and maybe then Onoki will have vengeance on Konoha. What he doesn't know is who the armored psychopath is under that armor. The son of his worst enemy. Kumo. The Raikage calmly stares at the bingo book, seeing the massive bounty. He, like Onoki, isn't interested in the damn bounty, but he can't ignore the fact of what the armored psychopath did in Konoha. He hoped none of the Hyugas were killed. Since he still wants his own Hyuga clan here in Kumo. He pressed a button, his intercom. Mabui. He started. Yes, Raikage-sama. She responded. Tell all shinobi on the border to pay attention to the armored psychopath, and that if he comes to our border, attack him on sight. He commanded. Right away, sir. She responded. Back at Konoha. What? You're saying that armored being is Naruto? Says a shocked Kiba while glancing at Ino, who is known to gossip, telling everyone that Naruto is the one who destroyed half of Konoha. Yes. My father is in the hospital because of him. Ino says angrily. Same, my mother is too. Kiba says. Pretty much all the rookies' parents were harmed in the attack. Except for Sakura's. I can't believe Naruto did that. Choye says, eating his chips. I think Naruto wouldn't do this out of his free will, something made him do it. Shikamaru says, making everyone turn to him. That armor made him do that. He points and Shino agrees, and reluctantly Ino, but not Kiba. I'm not going to forgive that son of a bitch. My mother is in the hospital because of him. Kiba snarked. And he killed all those innocent people. My mother was right. He is a monster. Sakura chimed in. Sasuke was just silent listening to all of this. Already jealous of the power Naruto displayed. Where do you think Naruto is now? And what is he thinking? Asked Ino facing Shikamaru. I don't know. I can't say for sure. Shikamaru admitted. Wherever Naruto may have gone to. He hopes his friend found some sense of peace. He has a bounty of 750 million ryo on him. That's a lot of money. Tenten says. A certain Hyuga girl was worried. The armored being who attacked her father was Naruto, as she remained silent during this. She tried using her Byukugan to see through that armor to see who's under that armor, but for some reason she couldn't see through the armor. Naruto-kun, she thought sadly as the image of him flying on that strange object came to her memories, watching him cause destruction. Konoha indeed will face rough times due to the amount of damage and death done to the village. The Chunin exams which were planned are going to be put on hold until Konoha pulls itself together. Sound Village. Orochimaru could only gaze at Kabuto in surprise. What happened to you? Orochimaru asked. Kabuto had burn marks and bruises on his face and body. He was even missing a left arm. Kabuto's left eye was blinded. Apparently Kabuto was a spy in Konoha. And on the night of Naruto's crash out he was caught in the crossfire of it. The armored psychopath did this to me, Kabuto says, groaning. Kabuto during that crash out was in agonizing pain. Just when he was taking some documents to send to his master, he was blown away by an explosion and sent crashing into a building. And that same building he was in was set on fire, and then another explosion happened after that, which explains the burn marks and missing left arm on Kabuto's body. He tried healing away most of his injuries. Am I still useful to you, Orochimaru-sama? Kabuto asked. You are useful still, but I want to know who is this armored psychopath and what did he do in Konoha? Asked Orochimaru. From the corner of the room two figures were listening to Orochimaru and Kabuto talk. The first teen girl has white hair, pale skin like Orochimaru, and has his eyes. The other had dark purple hair and purple eyes, with a lighter skin color, and is related to Orochimaru. They are called the Snake Sisters, the biological daughters of Orochimaru. The white one is named Omi-san, the firstborn of Orochimaru. The other is Medusa. Their mothers are unknown, but they are related to Orochimaru. Kabuto reached into his bag and pulled the bingo book and handed it to Orochimaru as he read the contents of the new bounty within it. The armored psychopath. Orochimaru said, looking at the bounty and description. Seeing this person single-handedly wrecked Konoha overnight. Intriguing, I want to know more about him. He would make a powerful ally for us to destroy Konoha. Orochimaru says. Elsewhere. Throughout the elemental nations, more and more assassins, bounty hunters, mercenaries, and rogues are currently leaving to go after the armored psychopath. All very greedy for that 750 million ryo reward. Those that encountered Berserker Naruto were not spared and died. Wherever Berserker Naruto walked, he would encounter groups of assassins, bounty hunters, mercenaries, rogue shinobi, even samurai from daimyos would even make the attempt to claim the bounty. Aoi Rokusho, who was a former Konoha Chunin, now a Jonin in aim, he would come prepared. He wants the bounty reward too, so he armed himself up with his umbrellas, and held the infamous sword of Rajan that once belonged to Tobarama Senju. He is in search for the armored psychopath. The former Chunin walked forward as he recently heard the agonizing scream of death. Running to the site of, he arrived at the scene of Berserker Naruto tearing a assassin's arms off and beat him to death with them. Around the armored Uzumaki boy were many other who fallen to Berserker Naruto, presumably dead. Aoi shivered in fear. It was like he was staring in the face of death, but remained composed and confident that he can take him, especially since he has the second Hokage's prized weapon. Berserker Naruto turned to Aoi as he held his staff. Aoi prepared his umbrellas and tossed them in the air as they rained down poisonous senbon directly on Berserker Naruto, but the senbon could barely pierce the armor. This would seem to anger Berserker Naruto as he charged at Aoi with his adamantine staff laced with his noble phantasm as he swung his staff vertically at the traitor of Konoha as he moved out of the way. Shit, he's fast. Aoi mused as Berserker Naruto lunged at him and unleashed his spiked tendrils, making the man backflip and land onto a tree branch, but Berserker Naruto jumped after him and spun his staff to strike, but Aoi blocked the attack with the sword of the Thunder God. As they blocked, the two gazed at one another as black fog billowed out of Berserker Naruto, who seemed to put pressure on Aoi. Aoi was sweating, but Berserker Naruto pushed his staff up at Aoi's face, striking him as Aoi stumbled backwards from the blow but recovered as he swiped his sword at Naruto in an attempt to behead him. "Your head and bounty is mine," Aoi yelled, still slashing his weapon at Naruto, but the armored boy would counter by ducking the blow. And reared fist back and delivered a hard uppercut to Aoi's chin, which would punch off Aoi's entire head clean off his body. Aoi's headless body would fall right off the tree branch with his head falling on the ground. Now in front of Naruto was the sword of the Thunder God. As he picked it up, once picked up in his grasp, the weapon was coated in his noble phantasm, as the blade of yellow lightning changed into the color of crimson lightning. Now with his new weapon, he walks away aimlessly. Elsewhere, at a bar, Tsunade and her student Shizune would be eating and of course drinking. Running away from debt collectors. "I feel like you're still wasting yourself away, Tsunade-sama," Shizune countered. "At least let me drink in peace. For Kami's sake, Shizune," Tsunade says. Shizune signed, as she would get up to leave. "Where are you going?" Tsunade asked her. "Heading back to our hotel room." Shizune says, not even looking at her sensei. She could barely recognize her sensei anymore. Tsunade signed heavily, already having a feeling this is going to be a long night. She walked over to the bar to get more to drink, paying the bartender. It wasn't until she heard from a booth in the bar that it looked like it was a group of mercenaries. "Doesn't this bounty look insane? 750 million ryo," says a mercenary pointing at the bingo book. Tsunade suddenly spat her drink out in shock hearing that much money. "Excuse me, how much did you say?" Tsunade asked to make sure she heard right as the mercenaries all turned to face her. 750 million ryo. It's all here in the bingo book. They call this wanted man the armored psychopath. The leader of the mercenaries say, tossing her the bingo book in which she caught it and looked at its contents. Reading the details of the bounty along with the reward money coming from Konoha, which is something she wants nothing to do with. They have to be insane for putting this much money. What exactly did he do in Konoha to earn such bounty? Tsunade asked, confused. Rumor has it that the armored psychopath caused a bloody massacre in Konoha and caused heavy damage to the village, says another mercenary. This somewhat made Tsunade concerned, wondering what happened in her old home. What in Kami's name create a man like the armored psychopath, she says, reading the bingo book and looking at his description. "I believe I can answer that," says a familiar voice in a grave tone, making her turn to see Jiraiya. "Jiraiya, what are you doing here?" she asked, surprised that he found her. "I came looking for you," he replied as she suddenly pieced it together. "What happened in Konoha? Is what this bingo book says here is true? How is sensei?" she asked. Jiraiya could only nod. "It's true. And sensei is not feeling well at all. He and everyone in Konoha needs direct medical attention from you, Tsunade." Jiraiya says. "Tell me why, Jiraiya. Why should I come to a village that I don't want nothing to do with?" She frowned. "Please, Tsunade. Sensei and many who were hurt need your help." Jiraiya pleaded. "It relates to Naru, I mean the armored psychopath." Jiraiya says. "Naruto. Naruto Uzumaki. Kushina's boy." Tsunade immediately asked. "It's best we talk about this privately, this will be a lot to tell," the Toad Sage says with a sigh. Hotel. Jiraiya, Tsunade and now Shizune, who was surprised by Jiraiya's sudden appearance, looked at the two of them. "So explain." Tsunade spoke, frowning at Jiraiya. "I don't know the details of what happened, but sensei told me enough of what went wrong. One of the Chunin probably set Naruto off. He wore some kind of armor, colored dark bluish color. A visor on the helmet that glows red with a single blue ponytail. He also had tendrils." Jiraiya tells her, giving her the best description. Tsunade frowned deeply at this, as she began to recall something similar to that description. "Anything else?" she asked. "He leaks of black fog. Or smoke," Jiraiya says. That made Tsunade freeze, as her blood turned ice. "Berserker," she whispered. "What?" Shizune asked. Tsunade immediately grabbed Jiraiya by the scruff of his clothing and stared at him. "Berserker is back. Are you telling me Naruto found his helmet and wore it?" she yelled as Jiraiya nodded slightly. "What's wrong, Tsunade-hime? I've never seen you this scared," he said. "You idiot, the shinobi nations are. Do you understand? He found the helmet of Berserker Lancelot. And the village put a big bounty on him." She screamed. "Yeah, so." Jiraiya says, not getting it. Who ordered the bounty? Sensei. She asked. It was Danzo. He answered. I should have known. She growled. I don't understand, why are you so tense about this, Berserker? Jiraiya says. I want to know exactly what happened. And why Naruto found the helmet. In fact, I never thought I'd say this, but, Shizune, pack your bags and get my things. Tsunade says, catching her student off guard. Are we going to? Shizune says. Yes, we are going to Konoha. To talk some sense into the idiots to drop the bounty, maybe I'll heal some of the people. But importantly of all, I want to know what Naruto's life was like in the village. Tsunade says while Jiraiya looked away with a visible flinch on his face. 3 days later, Berserker Naruto has been walking aimlessly all around the borders of Fire County only to encounter many bounty hunters, mercenaries, assassins, rogue shinobi. For the past 3 days the death count of many who joined the hunt were killed. Now a new player steps into the bounty hunt. And he was very feared and respected for his work. His name is Kakazu, a professional bounty hunter who is very money hungry. After seeing such high bounty, Kakazu couldn't ignore such big reward. He is also a member of the Akatsuki. Now fully interested, Kakazu would leave Akatsuki HQ to join the other bounty hunters in finding the armored psychopath. Berserker Naruto would be on the field fighting a whole horde of rogue shinobi who came here to collect his bounty. He pulled out 2 MP5 submachine guns and immediately started blasting, shooting most of them, as they all tried to get close to him, but they were shot down before they could even try. From a distance Kakazu would enter since he's here for the carefully analyzed Berserker Naruto. So you're the one with the most high bounty. Kakazu muttered as he watched Berserker Naruto relentlessly butcher every other rogue shinobi and bounty hunter. And none has survived him. He would wait until all the other small fry die off. He wants to watch and observe his destined prey before facing him. Kakazu could feel and sense the immense killing intent off of Berserker Naruto. And for some reason it made Kakazu have a chill run down his spine. After killing the last rogue, Berserker Naruto faced him, as Kakazu stared at him blankly. It's just you and I, now. Let's make this simple. Just die so I can collect your bounty. Kakazu says. Calling upon his hearts, 5 masks would pop right out of Kakazu's back as they became shadowy figures. Berserker Naruto brought out his adamantine staff and wasted no time in charging at Kakazu. As Kakazu and his masks would charge right at Naruto. One of the masks attempted to attack Berserker and it was the Earth mask, until Berserker Naruto charged at it and struck it, destroying the mask, causing Kakazu to wince in pain. The lightning mask flew high in the sky and fired an arc beam of lightning at Berserker Naruto, causing the armored Uzumaki to stumble backwards. Kakazu saw his chance and jumped forward to lance his fist right through Berserker Naruto, aiming for his heart, but the moment he did, he cringed in pain as he stumbled back, seeing his hand damaged from the armor. What the hell, he says, but immediately jumps backwards when he saw Naruto swing his staff. Why couldn't I pierce his armor? Just what is his armor made of? Kakazu thought as he dodged and evaded Berserker Naruto. As he did, the masks would continue to attack Berserker Naruto. As he watched how his masks were attacking Naruto, he noticed that Naruto's armor wasn't taking any damage at all. Just how is this possible? He thought. The wind mask shot more wind bullets at Naruto while the fire mask fired more fireballs, the lightning mask shot rays of lightning. But Berserker Naruto tanked them all and charged forward to slam his staff right into the wind mask, first destroying another heart of Kakazu, making him wince in pain. He's destroying my hearts, Kakazu says, grunting in pain. This would force Kakazu to force the other 2 masks to retreat back to him. I'm down to 2 hearts left. This guy, he's absolutely dangerous, Kakazu muttered, now thinking, what are his chances now? Is this bounty even worth it? Raahhhhh. Berserker Naruto screamed as he charged at Kakazu, who widened his eyes in fear for the first time. And for the first time he's the hunted. He spun his staff, struck Kakazu in the gut with it, causing the zombie man to cough blood. Then he delivered a mean punch that sent Kakazu 7 feet away from him. The fire and lightning mask would both fire their elements at Berserker to slow him down, but this would enrage Naruto further. Kakazu would jump forward to kick Berserker Naruto right into the face, knocking him into a few trees. Kakazu would see this as his chance to flee. As his hearts returned to his body, Berserker got up emitting in black fog and killer intent. As he slowly pulled out a heavy MG sniper rifle. As he took aim at Kakazu's fleeing form. Blam! Kakazu grunted in pain as he was shot right in the heart, causing him to fall face planted into the ground. Naruto slowing put away his sniper and grabbed a nearby war axe, slowly walking towards Kakazu. Kakazu weakly got up, but was suddenly struck on the head by the war axe Naruto held. Naruto would viciously struck Kakazu's head 8 times with the axe. He would cut Kakazu's left arm clean off, causing the zombie shinobi to scream. And then Kakazu weakly stared up at Berserker with blood leaking all over him. Naruto held the axe tightly and let out a roar of anger and slashed Kakazu's head clean off. Believing that he killed Kakazu, Berserker Naruto dropped the axe and walked away. As he left, Kakazu's left arm twitched. Kakazu would stitch himself back together and reattach his head on his body. I need to get out of here before he returns. Kakazu yelled, now taking his chance to run and flee. He must replace the hearts he lost. Akatsuki Base. Returning to the Akatsuki Base and walking down the hallway, Kakazu immediately kept walking. That was until Hidan spotted him. Whoa, that happened to you. Did you just get your beat? Ha ha ha. Knew you were. Hidan yelled until Kakazu glared at him. Shut up. Kakazu yelled at him, in no mood to say anything right now. Wait till I tell the others and Pain-sama that you got your handed to you by that bounty you had a hard-on for. Hidan laughed. Kakazu growled under his breath and continued to walk to his room, clearly in no mood to say anything or do anything. But he was terrified of Berserker Naruto and was lucky he survived today. With Naruto. After his fight with Kakazu, Berserker Naruto was now wandering. As he walked to the path that showed the way to Wave Country, leaving Fire Country after murdering so many that were after him for his bounty the village put on him. So hopefully no one will attack him once he's in a new country. Jiraiya, Tsunade and Shizune arrived at the gate. Both Tsunade and Shizune were both equally shocked at severe damage Berserker Naruto had done to the whole village. Oh my Kami! Shizune gasped, putting a hand to her mouth in shock. While Tsunade looked at all the damages to the buildings and streets of Konoha. So much destruction done to her great-grandfather's village. As her eyes turned to gaze at the Hokage monument that was also damaged as well. How many died? She asked Jiraiya, facing him as he looked grim. 614 shinobi were killed, 899 civilians died in the rampage, some were injured and survived but fatally in critical condition. He even killed orphans, in orphanages. Jiraiya says with Shizune gasping in shock and horror at how much death had happened here. And a young child did all of this? Shizune asked, still not able to get over the death and collateral damage here done. Yes, Jiraiya answered. Tsunade was silent during all of this. Something told her that there was a lot more to all of this. While Naruto was probably under the helmet's influence, but knowing how Jinchuriki are treated, there was possibly a chance he did this out of his own free will, venting his frustration and anger. This makes her even more determined to find out what Naruto's life was like, and that could be the result of what happened here. Konoha Hospital. Now arriving at the hospital, Tsunade now faced her sensei, who is indeed bedridden and was confirmed to be disabled since Naruto had destroyed his spine. It's good seeing you again, Tsunade, he says to his former student. I can't really say the same. After what I heard about what happened here. Sensei, I want to know exactly what Naruto's life was like here. Tsunade asked her sensei, who looked slightly worried. Why bring this up? He asked as she frowned. Because there's more to this than what happened. You know as well as I do about how Jinchuriki are treated, so I'm only going to ask this once. Was Naruto treated better, or was he abused and hated on by this village? She asked sternly. Hiruzen hesitated to say anything, sweating lightly. As Tsunade took notice of his silence and narrowed her eyes. If you won't tell me, I'll ask someone else who will. She said with a glare. Tsunade Haim, be reasonable here, give sensei time to recollect, Jiraiya told her, but she glared at him too. If he won't tell me, then I will leave this village. She challenged. That was all it took for Hiruzen to crack and spill. Wait, Tsunade. Don't go, he says. Then say something. She glared. I have not been the best to look after Naruto's well-being, I tried, he admitted. Narrowing her eyes that her suspicions were confirmed as she turned to stare at Jiraiya, who flinched at her look. And where was you at? Last I checked I heard that you was supposed to be his godfather, at least that's what Kushina told me before she died. Tsunade questioned him. Jiraiya was sweating nervously and looked to his sensei for help, knowing if he told her, he was a dead man. Well? She asked with impatience. Jiraiya knew lying right now is a bad idea. So he decided to come clean. I wasn't here for him, either. I was out in the fields watching out for potential threats to the Leaf Village. I couldn't afford to watch over Minato's brat he says until Tsunade grabbed him by the scruff of his collar and glared at him face to face. So you were neglectful to your duties as his godfather. Minato trusted you and put his faith in you to look after his son and you did none of that. She yelled in his face. Tsunade, please, I didn't think any of this was going to happen or escalate this bad. Jiraiya says until Tsunade need him in the gut. Liar. She yelled narrowly, her eyes. You know how Jinchuriki are treated. You left him here alone with no love or support. I honestly think you did more than just monitor your spynetwork. Probably wrote more of that shitty porn you love and peep at women. She screamed for all to hear, exploding in anger. Tsunade, please. It wasn't like that, honest. He tried to say, but she need his gut harder. Minato made a mistake in trusting you as his godfather to his son, and because of this, you're just as responsible as sensei here. She says, dropping him. She turned to face her sensei. Why didn't you stop Danzo and those other old bags to drop the bounty? She questioned him. Because it was necessary, Tsunade. He killed hundreds of lives here. Have you forgotten he killed children his age? Surely Jiraiya told you, he told her. After hearing that, she stared at her sensei hard. Without wasting no time, she punched her sensei right out the hospital room. Tsunade, what the hell? Jiraiya yelled. She turned to Jiraiya and slapped him hard in the face that it sent him right out of the hospital, sending him crashing into 3 buildings. You dumbasses have no idea on who you were with. She yelled. She walked out the room and picked up her sensei, grabbing him roughly as he groaned in pain after she punched him. Did you just say it was necessary? Putting a massive bounty on a 12-year-old. Mind you, he was Minato and Kushina's son. They would be rolling in their graves if they know what Danzo and the others did. Tsunade yelled at him. Tsunade, you think I don't know that? He groaned. If you did, then call the damn bounty off. Make Danzo call it off now. He sent hundreds, no, thousands to their deaths if they pursue Naruto as Berserker. She said. I can't do that, the people will want Naruto. Tried for his crimes, he says. Tsunade, you have to understand, he killed hundreds of lives here, the people are calling out for justice on him, he says. Can't, or won't. She then proceeded to punch him repeatedly in the face for his screams of pain to be heard. Stop, he pleaded to her. She didn't stop. She kept punching him in the face. If you won't do it, then I will. She dropped her disabled sensei and stormed off to find Danzo and the elders. Wave. Black fog billowing from Berserker Naruto as he walked, now finding himself in another village, now in waves. On his way here he killed other bounty hunters who pursued him for his bounty. Now walking silently, hoping to find peace here, as he ventured off into the forest, he spotted several wild animals looking at him as they scurried off. Even the bears and wolves stayed clear away from Berserker Naruto. Just as he walked further. Help! Help! Screamed a voice of a woman as it made Berserker Naruto snap his head in that direction. Shut up, bitch, and pleasurous men. Since your widow, yelled a thug as he and 7 other men were here surrounding a woman named Tsunami as 2 men held her down and was stripping her of her clothing. Please stop. Someone help. Tsunami yelled, terrified. Before the thugs could proceed, they heard inhuman guttural roaring, making them all turn to see a blue armored being with a red glowing visor and black fog and killer intent leaking heavily. Who the is that? Yelled a thug, as Tsunami also glanced at the armored blue being. I don't care. Kill him, says the lead thug as 2 thugs grabbed their weapons, revealing knives, and lunged at Berserker Naruto only for his tendrils to appear and impale them. Much to the shock of the thugs. Kill the son of a bitch, yelled the lead thug as the rest charged at him. The other thugs lunged at Naruto while he stayed behind, as he and Tsunami watched. Berserker Naruto brought out his sword of Raijin that he stolen from Aoi and immediately went to work on the thugs, ending their lives. The lead thug almost pissed his pants seeing his friends killed, as Tsunami could only gasp, but suddenly the lead thug grabbed Tsunami and held her at knife point. Come any closer and I'll cut this bitch's throat, He screamed, feeling fear grip him. Tsunade looked worried, seeing the knife under her throat, and gazed at her would-be savior, who only stared. Berserker Naruto gazed at the lead thug, who was trembling and shivering in fear as Berserker Naruto induced heavy killer intent upon the lead thug. The lead thug was scared, afraid as he tried to keep his composure, but felt the intense gaze on him, as he heard the screams of all of Berserker Naruto's victims he killed. The black fog began to spread and the thug was shook. "Stop. I mean it all, kill this bit." Before he could finish that sentence, while he couldn't see in the black fog, he felt one of the tendrils impale him to the side of his head as his body fell slump. The black fog disappeared as Tsunade looked at the lead thug, who had a terrified expression as he died. She then turned to face her savior to thank him, but she didn't see him anymore. He disappeared. Baffled that he vanished. "Whoever you are, thank you," she called out to him as she proceeded to run home and tell her father what happened. After saving one life, Berserker Naruto walked into the village of Waves, seeing the many people who looked saddened and unhappy. He was no longer leaking black fog and was looking around. Walking off, this didn't go unnoticed by the other thugs. "Hey," one thug says, looking at Berserker Naruto, and suddenly grabbed the wanted poster and bounty. "It's him, the psychopath," he whispered to his other friends. "That's the one that cost O." That's the end of part 1. Nightfall has claimed Naruto, but control has not yet been decided. If you enjoyed this chapter, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Fox Fanfiction. Comment, part 2 inches if you want to see Naruto lose control for the first time.